Hey, hello, how are you? I thought today we could paint some geodes. Uh, I was thinking of ways that we could work on wet techniques as well as dry on wet techniques, dry on dry, and just sort of play with some color without having to worry too much about drawing or shape or things like that. The only specialty item you'll need is some salt. We're going to play a little bit with that. So usually I work on more than one at a time. This, it's a cold press paper. It doesn't have a lot of texture. It's fairly smooth. It's a little smoother than I usually use, but I have it in a 5x7, so I'm going to use it. I'll also do some ATC sizes. This is in a heavier cold press. This is Fabriano Artistico. It's the paper I usually use. It's just been, the Deckle's been trimmed. So I try to maximize as much paper as I can. So I try to salvage what I can. And then this one, I don't know what this is. This got trimmed off of something else. And it's got a weird texture. So we're going to go ahead and try that one too. Just to see what happens. Okay. So we're going to work at what we call wet on wet. And you just make a shape. I've tinted, look at me, it's like I tinted, I'm using old water so you can kind of see what's going on. I do that a lot. It dries fairly clear, but at least you can see sort of what's happening. You just make a weirdo shape. I'm going to take a little bit of, what is that? Burnt umber and sepia. I'll also be using this Bloodstone genuine because it granulates really interestingly. And we're just going to tap it along the outside edge and let it do its thing. Wherever it's dry, you'll get a clear mark. Wherever it's wet, you'll get that kind of, I always think of tissue paper, or if you're painting on a piece of paper towel, sort of picks up. And you can see as it dries, it does it less. It just sort of moves into the area. And we're just going to tap it along. Tap, tap, tap. Just add a bit more water down here. And we're just going to let it do its thing. I'm going to grab the edge a bit. And just with water, bring some of that wetness into the center. You see how the pigment kind of moves around. Don't worry about it being light. We'll go in later and add more. But I want to get, I think we'll just do a half on this guy. Do, 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 do. These I thought would be neat because it seemed like a good project where you can just sort of play around with different colors and dabbing. And I think they'll make interesting gift cards, or if you have a room in your house but no art, I've seen like an easy one that you can just add a pop of color to. Okay, so this guy's starting to dry out a little bit. I'm going to bring another layer of randomness to the outside here. There's that bloodstone. See how it does kind of weird. Granulation is what that's called. That looks pretty cool. Do a couple up here. These little guys are buckling a little bit. I think I'll tape them down. There we go. The smaller the paper, the more apt it is to buckle up on you. To be proper, you should size and stretch the paper, but I almost never do. I like fast results. Let's do, I think purple. I have this Amethyst Genuine. Let's see what that does. Around the edges here. Let's see how it's, the paper's dried out. So it's not doing its spready bits there. So I'll wet it down a little bit. There we go. Just let that do its thing for a while. This one, maybe let's do blue. Just run some water along the edges so it kind of blends in. I think it's going to need some more darkness along the outside as well. There we go. That's cool. This one, let's do, Minnesota is my home base, so let's do, one of my home bases. I have this Minnesota Pipestone Genuine, so let's do a superior agate with that. Those are kind of red colored. You can find them all over Lake Superior and through lakes and streams. Some of them you find just mixed in with the rock quarries. Just walking down the street. So you'll see me getting the extra water off of my brush sometimes. That's what this is. Also tattooed for so long that holding something in my left hand like this feels like a little safety blanket. And just kind of run our brush around the edges. There, that's fun. Okay, this guy's looking drier. Let's run some water along the interior. Oh, I still had some brown in there. That's okay. Those little accidents, those little inconsistencies just make a natural thing look more natural. Now, it's starting to pool and run a little bit here. That's because I did not stretch and tape everything down. I'm just going to let it do it though, because I don't care. Again, it's those little inconsistencies that make natural things look more natural. It's when you try to control things too much that you spoil the illusion. I guess that's true in a lot of things. That's good. Let's do this guy again. I'm going to leave some space in between the last color and the next color. we'll do maybe some more distinct lines. See how we feel about that. This guy, let's get some red in here. I have this Amethyst genuine, which I think is just really pretty. So let's drop some of that in there. It also has some kind of natural sparkle to it, which I think is cool. There we go. What's this guy doing? I want more purple on the outside here. So I'm going to wet it down. Add some, what is, I think this is the Windsor purple. Windsor violet. It's one of the few, I keep looking for the perfect purple, and this one's pretty close. Purple's one of those colors that's, I think, hard to find a really nice one. And this is Amethyst. It's got kind of a gray purple tone to it. I use it a bunch because I think it's sparkly and pretty. Yeah, that's fun. I liked when we had a little bit of that brown in there. So let's run diluted brown around the inside here. Yeah. Okay, this guy looks dry. I don't know how much I love that. I'll just wet down over the top of it. Lift it a little bit. That's okay. Put some of this turquoise in over the top of it. Maybe a tiny bit of yellow. What's that going to do? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Let's run it over here too. See what happens. So you just sort of mess around with everything. There's these natural reds and yellows. Let's throw those in here. I want a darker reddish. I use a little bit of this garnet, and then this one is, I should just, there we go. I don't always look at the colors because it's just me hanging out. There. You can't see that. That's all right. I was pulling my color cheat sheet out so you could take a look at it, but it's not on screen. We're learning together. Let me know in the comments if you want to see the palette, if you want to see the colors, if that's helpful. If you don't care. I don't know, I'm just learning these tutorial videos, so any feedback is more than welcome. I've been tattooing long enough that I got a pretty thick skin when it comes to that kind of thing. I think as an artist you have to have a little bit of thickness to to your skin, because it's hard when people say things. Okay, let's do some dark in the center. That's good, and I want more of that amethyst in there. Awesome. Maybe we'll run a bit of it right here too. Now this is doing something weird and I don't really love it, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a bit of soap while it's still wet. Put it in this section. We'll see what kind of texture that gives us. Don't paint over it, otherwise you're going to put salty stuff and you end up with a corroded palette like I have. Okay, so I think we can run some more lines through here. Now I just took a little bit of the paint fairly diluted. Here's a bit more boldness. And run it in circles. It doesn't, here this part doesn't matter if there's some wetness to it because it'll just do its thing. Maybe you want that. Maybe just add a little more water here and there. I have this duochrome color. I don't use it very often, but it might work well for this. It's got some sparkle in it, and it's purple. Just throw all my purples at it. Thinks that's cool. We'll just throw some water in it. Just plain water. Let it do its thing. Here, I'm going to add that dark portion there. Got the Payne's gray bluish. You just kind of dingle along. And see what you like. There. This part you just have to accept that it's done. That one I think is pretty done. This one's still drying. This guy, it's kind of doing something weird. So you can also lift paint. And it makes cool textures as well. You just get a clean little area on your paper towel. I reuse mine a ton. And just dab at it. You can make some interesting shapes as well. Another one of my favorite things to do, I'll do this with galaxy stuff a lot too, so I'll take a little bit of white gouache and a old toothbrush. Wet the tip down just a little. Get a little on there and then speckle it on there. While it's still a little damp, those things will just sort of blend in. And now we watch paint dry for a while. So now that our paint has dried a little bit more, we can go in and make some tweaks here. I'm going to use this larger brush. I still want this outside edge to be a little darker. So when you cut these geodes open, they're like a big rock. I think it's so interesting that you cut them open and there's these beautiful spaces inside that you never would have expected looking at it from the outside. Just darkening up the edges a little bit. This is a purple and some of that genuine amethyst. I'm doing it around the edges here because I want it to look a little bit like you're looking inside. As the paint dries, you'll notice it does get lighter. So a little bit of patience is required because when you're working and you get obsessively stuck in one little area, trying to get it right, just go somewhere else and work on something else for a while. That's why having a little side project like these guys can really be helpful because it has to dry. Just let it be, let it do its thing. Watercolors equally fast and slow. I'm gonna just dab a little because I think it makes an interesting texture. I want this to be a little darker too. A little darker purple. Same with this, I want to minimize that lightness there. Maybe it'll look like there's crystals or something forming. And I'll just run a light texture. Nature has so many cool textures in it. You just kind of look around and play with them a little bit. Just a little bit more darkness in there. I want it to look deep. Deep in there. A little more. And feel free to hold your paintbrush back a little further and let the wiggles just kind of happen. Let the textures just kind of happen. Too bright in between there. Add a little more blue. Ooh, I've got this cool Mayan blue I just got. Let's use that. did a video on that as well if you want to know the history of Mayan blue. There's some tidbits of information about that, as well as a skull painting. All right, I'm pretty happy with how these are looking. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the gouache thing one more time, and then I'm also going to do just a little in there, just to the center. There we go. I don't want it to be too wet, otherwise you'll get big droplets. There we go. And I think I'm also going to do it with a little bit of color. This is harder to control this way, but you can get some cool effects. And I don't really care if it spatters on the outside. It's kind of a cool grungy effect when that happens. So, all right, a little bit of purple loaded onto the end. And we're just going to spatter it, trying to control it on the inside. Yeah, I think that's neat. And we'll do a little bit of the brown too. So that is some things that you can try with a wet on wet technique. Wet on wet is when you wet the paper and you paint over the top of it and it starts to do the spreading thing. If you want a crisper line, you either go directly to dry paper or you wait until the previous layer is dried and you'll get more defined lines. I also used the salt technique. You can scrape it away either early or you can wait for the whole thing to dry. And you can get some good, cool techniques that way too. Maybe I'll throw a little at this amethyst geode just to see what happens. You can use regular salt, table salt, sea salt. It'll give you different textures. So try it out. See what happens. Thanks for watching.